Trident Limited, a subsidiary of First Quantum Minerals Limited.
It's Sunday, the 22nd of September in the year 2024. Thank you so much for creating time to join us for this week's edition of Costa. I'm your host. My name is Andrew Mwansa, sitting in for Costa Mwansa. Now, President Hakainde Hichilema last week opened the fourth session of the 13th National Assembly, announcing key initiatives across various sectors. He revealed an increase in the Sustainable Agricultural Financing Facility from 400 million to 1.2 billion kwacha for the 2024-2025 farming season, aiming to expand support for farmers, covering more crops, livestock and agriculture, and enhancing irrigation and mechanization. In the mining sector, President Hakainde Hichilema announced major investments, including the $600 million Kitumba mine project in Mumbwa and the $2 billion Cobalt Metals and ZCCMIH joint venture in Chiliabombe, along with the resolutions on Mopani and Kesiam. And he says that the copper belt is back to life. Addressing the power shortages, he announced a 300 megawatts thermal plant in Mamba to be operational by mid-2026. He said ZESCO has also secured other projects, including partnerships from China, aimed at reducing the country's reliance on hydropower. On the economy, the president did highlight that the country recorded positive growth over the past 3 years, with GDP averaging 5%. He, however, said the effects of the drought have caused a downward revision on the 2024 growth forecast from 4.7% to 2.3%. President Hakainde Hichilema further on did highlight the impact of the climate change and what it had necessitated Parliament to realign the 2024 budget with an additional expenditure of 41.9 billion kwacha to address the climate-related challenges that has come with the drought. The highlight of the speech, however, was him calling for constitutional amendments in addressing the lacunas in the Constitution. Right after the source messages, I'm joined in by PF President Sampa. Good evening, welcome to Costa. Once again, my name is Andrew Mwansa. My guest tonight is Patriotic Front President Sampa, who also is material lawmaker. Thank you so much, Honorable Sampa, for joining me on Costa this evening.
Andrew, thank you for having me on Costa, and good evening, dear listeners, dear viewers in all the provinces of Zambia.
You are currently debating the presidential speech this whole month. You'll be debating the presidential speech, and I would like for us to start from the highlight of this presidential speech that has created a number of headlines. The president getting to comment on the fact that our constitution ought to be worked on. He was making reference to Article 52 of the Zambian constitution. He says these are like some of the lacunas that ought to be worked on, or if they're not worked on, you might end up in a situation where the president gets to be in power from 7 to 9 years. I'd like to get your comment over this remark the president made.
Indeed, I took a great exception to that comment coming from a politician. A constitution is the life of the citizens. Okay, the constitution of USA has been there time immemorial, and the constitution is for the people of Zambia. It's not for us politicians. When you hear a politician talking about the constitution needs to be amended, that means in there they've seen something that needs to be changed to benefit themselves. It's the people of Zambia that should be saying we want the constitution to be amended. Fair enough. This same constitution that was enacted or amended in 2016, it has held 3 elections, successful 2 elections in 2016 and in 2021. And in 2016, President Edgar Lungu won narrowly. And then in 2021, President Hakainde Hichilema HH won a landslide by 1 million votes. That means this constitution is functional. It has sustained 2 general elections. Of course, at any point in time, a constitution is a living document. Time changes, okay? In 2016, we didn't have circumstances that we are having now. So obviously, a constitution has to be amended, but not every 5 years, every 10 years. We had the Mungomba constitutional review, the Mvunga. Each time a president comes, they want to touch the constitution. It's not fair to the people of Zambia. The article that the president is talking about, that's why there is the Constitutional Court. The Constitutional Court is there to adjudicate over any matter to do with the Constitution. So if there's a lacuna on that particular article, we should find a way as a nation to ask the Constitutional Court to pronounce itself and not change every time. I know there are a number of issues. I know my colleagues, certain MPs, might be happy because there's talk of delimitation to divide some constituencies into half. That gives a chance to a number of them to come. So that's a carrot that's been given to some. But in the process, what guarantee do we have that where the ruling party is strong, that province will not have 50 more constituencies, okay? And then where they are weak, maybe they'll just have 2 extra constituencies. And then, boom, we'll have a majority in parliament with the ruling government and the president. We should never at any time have a single party kind of arrangement in parliament. We should always have checks and balances.
Those are some of the alarms that the UPND raised when the Patriotic Front, the Patriotic Front, were pushing for, Bill 10. But allow me again to go back to Article 52, of the Zambian Constitution, and for the avoidance of doubt, let me just read the article, as it is. Article 52, Part 6 says, where a political party-sponsored candidate for election as a member of parliament resigns after the close of nomination, but before the election date, the Electoral Commission is obligated to cancel the election and call for fresh nominations from eligible candidates and call for fresh elections in accordance with Article 52, Part 6. This, even under the term that you are in government as a Patriotic Front, you said this particular piece of legislation was problematic.
Andrew Chuamilagaru, you know that saying. The Bill 10 in 2016 was rejected by the UPND. It had good articles there that were going to change and clean up the constitution. The argument that was used by our party, the PF, is the same one they want to use now. But then you see, when you want to change the constitution 2 years, 1 year, 2 years before the elections, in Zambia it's such that the citizens just become mistrust. They think you want to touch the constitution to favor yourself for the elections so that you win. Zambians love to exercise their right to choose. Now, when they see you trying to deny them, they frown upon that. Even the MMD government in 2011, before we kicked them out, they had a constitutional review, and the PF hammered them in parliament, and it flopped. That was the end of the MMD. From there, PF, we even formed government. The PF, we brought the Bill 10. So much money was spent, so much money, we know what happened, because it needed to go through. But come that day, even the UPND MPs that had promised to vote, some had even had good handshake. But on that day, they voted against it, and it flopped. Because it was close to elections. People did not want it to be changed. Even this one. We're going into the UPND when they won in 2021, 22, 23. They should have been talking about changing the constitution. Now the game is almost going in extra time. The mood now is towards elections. But then we want to change it. So even this one will flop.
Don't you think it's a genuine cause, really, looking at this particular article? The concern is that we're going going to have scrupulous candidates that are going to be, pulling out before the election date, before the actual election, so that it delays the elections. And the concern of the president was that we're going to have a president who's going to be in office, for even a period of 9 years, because then you'll have candidates pulling out of the election.
That's impossible. First of all, I think the president just said what was in his mind, unless that's the plan he wants to do. When you go in an election, first of all, why didn't it happen in 2021? Nobody pulled out. Actually, I thought one or two was going to pull out, and then it was only the presidential election that was going to be suspended, and not the entire one. So why then it worked out? When you're going to a general election, everyone that's standing wants to win. The president, the incumbent then was President Edgar Lungu, now is President HH. When we're going towards the elections, they want to win, and the ones who will be challenging we want to win as well. So it's not in anyone's interest. Unless you are going in a football match, before it even starts, you say, we are losing. So that occurrence is possible, but it's not probable. So far, it's not happened into general election. Should we change? The Zambians don't trust changing the constitution. Why does this government?
Do you agree that this is problematic?
Like many other, even in Buten highlighted it and many other, but the UPND declined. So now, why should we come back and do the same thing? Yes, the constitution needs to be worked on, but let's work on it after general election. Whoever wins 2026, 3 months later, they should start working on the constitution. But let's have the election on the same rules as the UPND won in 2016.
This call has been backed by the Electoral Commission of Zambia chairperson, arguing that there's a lot of connivance among electoral players during elections, which has resulted in the abuse of the law, thereby posing the ECZ and other players to incur higher costs than budgeted for. Don't you think really if we're going to have even 4 candidates getting to pull out just before the election, then it means that you're going to spend more as PF president, because you need to go back to the people again, begin to campaign. Even for the members of parliament, it's the same. They'll have to go back and campaign. But also, we know for a fact that there's a budget that the ECZ has. They need to then begin to revise their budget. Don't you think we can fix these things even before we go into an election?
Right now, when we tell them stop propagating this by-election, they tell us democracy is expensive. So democracy is not cheap. We budget for it. So the budget in contingent measures, what if? The ECZ, first of all, it should know what its role is. The ECZ is not the one to set guidelines. The ECZ is a referee. Them is just to play the game as per rules. FIFA or FAS make the rules of the football. The referee is the one just to blow. It's not should be the one to say, offside, we should do it like this way. No, that's not their role. In any case, the ECZ, they are part of the problem. I think they are not sure whether they are the referee or they are part of the UPND or not. First of all, let's go to the Kabushi by-election. There, because they really wanted my brother Bowman, to lose or not to stand, or the PF to lose that seat, one candidate withdrew. The ECZ ignored that Article 52, and the election proceeded because they were in a hurry to give it to the UPND. In Kawata, when there was a by-election, one candidate withdrew. Because it pleased the ruling party, they postponed the election. So the ECZ as a referee, if it's offside one side, the other side, it's not offside. So they need to remind themselves what their role is. They are supposed to be an impartial referee and not be a participant.
Are you worried with the conduct of the electoral body?
No, I'm not happy so far. The example is in Kabushi and elsewhere. Even the sentiments that they brought up, they're supporting whatever the ruling says, whatever the president says. The president is a player in this game of politics. So ECZ as the referee, they should not take sides.
What are you telling Zambian people tonight, President Sampa, that if there's a push for constitutional amendments in the House and the bill is brought, your MPs, the Patriotic Front MPs, are you saying that they're going to reject any constitutional amendments, just like how the UPND didn't support you on Buten?
You must know the background. The background, you see, the push to get the 9 MPs to be expelled and out of parliament, that was partly that. The UPND, to change the Zambian constitution, you need 2/3 majority of the MPs. The UPND are only about 93. They need 111. When we've done all the maths, plus the independents that are supporting the ruling, the UPND need about 11 MPs from the PF. So that's why you see that when I insisted that the 9 MPs should not go out of parliament, I tried to go into consent. It was blocked. I gave an amnesty that we've forgiven them because we don't want to lose an MP. There's a time when any conflict goes beyond personal conflicts or goes beyond being a PF problem with my MPs. It now becomes a national issue. If the 9 goes, that means the UPND were going to head towards having a 2/3 majority. Then they'll change the constitution as they want and put clauses they want. Like I told you, the simple one. They can even change. They say, now Zambians will not vote for the president to be voted in the House, like it's done in South Africa, meaning it's the MPs who choose who should be the president. So all they will do is go to one province where they're strong and multiply. If there is 40 seats of MPs currently, they can go and divide them and make that province have 100 constituencies. That means they'll gain 60 MPs. And then we go to elections to elect only the MPs. After that, we come in parliament because they know they have the majority. Then they can go forever. Do Zambians want that? So there was a time I put my interest down and said, we need to take this matter out of PF because it has national implication. Even as my colleagues, some MPs fight me, and we're not in good books, but I said, no, I forgive you. I don't want you to leave parliament. It's not in the good interest of the country. And that's how I've written those letters, and they're in court now. If need be, I'll be a witness to ensure that they don't go out of parliament because we don't want the numbers to be reduced. Of course, there are a number of MPs the UPND think they have spoken to, and we know them. You can tell by the ones they force in the front bench. Even if we give a list of people who want to be in the front bench, they put people they think are with them. I used to sit in the front bench. Next I found I'd been moved back because they realized that, no, this one thinks independently. We cannot buy him at any price to vote as well.
Have the UPND bought your members of parliament?
It depends. You have to define the word bought. How do you explain, Andrew? Somebody is PF, but goes and starts praise and worshipping the UPND or the president. We are opposition. At no time when President Michael Sata was in power and President Edgar Lungu did we ever see any UPND MP rise in parliament in the French bench opposition. There was Cornelius Mwitwa, Garin Kombo, JJ Mwimbu, Request Muntanga and the others. When they stand there, you even realize now this is real opposition. And if the president is addressing, it was his duty to actually acknowledge them and manage them. It's part of democracy. But now the system chooses those that go and stand, sit in front there under the PF. When they stand up, they say, this is the best government. The president is the best president. The UPND is working very well. So they are denying the Zambian people objective
Don't you think this problem has been created partially by yourself, President Sampa?
How have I done that?
By how you've divided the Patriotic Front. Now the Patriotic Front seems to be divided. There are those that are with you. There are those that are with you. Other members of parliament that are strongly with you.
You need to go back. You need to go back.
Others are with President Edgar Lungu. Don't you think this has been created because of perhaps how selfish you are?
So that's a line that you've heard being said by rivals. The problem with the PF started with losing general election. Okay, when you lose general election, then there are these problems that come up. People did not want a convention to take place. President Lungu was said to have resigned, and then we paid 200,000. I paid. I don't know about other people. So those who received my 200,000 didn't want to hold the election. They should take the blame. The blame is for everybody with PF. No one can say they're innocent. Even the loss to pinpoint you caused PF to lose in 2021, obviously the leader takes the blame, but everybody, all of us should take the blame. There is so many factors that are causing those what you're calling factions. Some by the ruling party, some by those people who don't want others. It just have to be with them. I must put a disclaimer, I'm not talking about President Lungu here, but there are those that surround him. They just want to be them, unless it's them and nobody else. No. I have equal rights to the PF. I participated. I paid 200,000. I'm the president now. I've been holding a lot of meetings with a number of people to find a common ground to unite the party. But there are others who just don't want the party to unite. The more you try to unite it, the more they pull in certain direction. Or they'll give me conditions like, you must resign and leave the PF no presidency. If I resign today, the PF will have no president. There'll be a vacuum. Then vouchers will come and take it. So it has to be done properly. And, take the party and hand it over to this one. There's no room in the PF constitution to do that.
You raise a very serious concern of how ineffective, your party, your members of parliament have been, in the House. Are you worried that in the next election, these members of parliament will contest not on your ticket, but on the UPND ticket?
Andrew, we've seen this before. We've learnt a lot from Michael Sata. Any MP, we've seen some MPs going to bed with the ruling party, and they are known. In an ideal world, would have actually suspended most of them or expelled. But look, we've taken a position, we don't want by-elections, and I don't want to be the one to cause any by-election on any MP. So we're leaving it to the people. We've seen what's happened before. When we were in the ruling as PF, there were some MPs that we tempted to come and work with us. You had Honorable Siamunene, Honorable Ntundu, Honorable Kaingu, Honorable Monde. Today, where are they? So when they went to elections, the people judged them. So we'll leave it to the people. It's only a year and a few months in 2026. Those amongst us, the MPs who've decided they'll work with the ruling, they don't want to work with us because we're in opposition. But we've been there before, and we know we'll bounce back. So they've gone to the ruling. We'll leave it to their voters. They should actually go and stand on UPND. But mark my word, they will lose to the PF. Those that have gone to UPND, they are well known. We are asking, and we have a lot actually inquiring if they can stand on the PF. And we feel, and they'll go and stand with the UPND. I'll come and sit here and show you. You've seen that one, he lost. That one, he lost. I'm going to stand, whatever I stand, I'm standing in opposition. I have never gone to a ruling. I've never been in opposition and say I'm going to the ruling because they're in the ruling. That's unfair to the people you have found. So these MPs who want to stand under UPND in a particular constituency, what happened to those people who have suffered with UPND in that area? The losing candidates. How fair is that? So yes, there are a number, we know them, but make no mistake.
How much support are you receiving from the members of parliament? I was listening to your I don't know if he's also your chairperson for mobilization, Boma Lusambo, complained bitterly of how disrespectful members of parliament, are to President Edgar Lungu when he calls for meetings, they don't attend. And I want to find out really how united you are as members of parliament of the Patriotic Front, and how respectful are these to you, President Sampa?
Well, I've made a choice not to disparage former President Edgar Lungu. In the same way I worked with Michael Sata, there was a time, even if he does something wrong, I held him in high esteem. So President Lungu is the former president of Zambia and the former president of the PF. And I've said before, he's the father of the nation and needs respect. So even where I think that he's doing something wrong, I've chosen not to reprimand him. Boman Rusambo was speaking that MPs should go and escort President Edgar Lungu when he goes to court. That's his choice. That's his view. It may not necessarily be my view. we want to run away from those kind of politics. When I go to court, I don't expect MPs to follow me. And that's partly Kadaism of going in huge numbers. You can go and defend yourself.
We saw President H being followed by his members of parliament and other people to show support and solidarity to him.
In opposition.
Because he believed that was political persecution.
Well, it depends. The issue of President Lungu, where I stand now, I've got a different view. I think he has not been treated well. I think we've seen in the region former presidents where they have not been treated well. We've seen what the results have been. Make no mistake, is President Lungu a factor in the coming election? A big factor. Is he going to stand? It's not me to say. That matter is in court. But whichever way, goes without saying, is a huge factor, and partly because of how the system has treated him. We've seen what happened in South Africa. Zuma was not a factor until he was persecuted. Now he's a big factor. He may take out the ANC in the coming election. Ian Khama is a big factor in Botswana's election coming up next month. In Malawi, Peter Wamtarika was defeated by Chakwera. Now he's come back, he's standing, they're having elections next year. And make no mistake, apparently what happens in Malawi is a precursor to what is going to happen in Zambia. In
the US as well?
In the last election in Malawi, the ruling was beaten, and so it happened in Zambia after. So in next year's election in Malawi, if the ruling lose, UPND might as well start taking a lot of pictures, the MPs when they go in parliament, and the president when he comes there. He may take a lot of pictures, because it will be indication that that's it.
Getting back to the presidential speech, one of the important things the president raised in his speech was how CDF was going to be raised, and he encouraged you members of parliament to utilize this CDF well for you to be a successful member of parliament. I'd like to get it from you, President Sampa, how impactful CDF under the new dawn has been, owing to the fact that they've been saying that this is a game changer, raising it from 1.6 billion kwacha to now over 30 million kwacha.
Well, to me, the CDF should not even be called Constituency Development Fund. Now I call it Council Development Fund. That fund comes, it's been increased. It has nothing to do with us MPs. Our role starts on recommending. Okay, we want a 3x1 there, or we want a school there, we want a tractor. That's it. After that, it goes to the council, and the council do the procurement. They delay or they do as they want. The same councilpreneurs, I call them councilpreneurs, those who've been eating from the CDF, they get all the contracts. They work hand in hand with the people at the council at the lower level. The same people I used to see under PF when we were launching CDF. Now when I was launching the other time in Matero recently, the same guy I was seeing is now there. He's the one who's built that structure. It means he still has control at the council there. So you find some projects take longer. It has nothing to do with us, the MPs. So you find the CDF has been very bureaucratic. Fine, they brought in the DC. I'm happy with that. They brought in the disabled. I'm happy with that. They want a women representative as well. But still, it won't change anything. It will just prolong the meetings of making decision on what the money should be used at. The real problem is at the council. Until the council is cleaned up.
How different was CDF under how different was it before the UPND? In terms of the power that the MP had?
It's the same. Let me put a disclaimer. It has nothing to do with the mayor. It has nothing to do with the councillor. Right now, the council is majority is under the UPND. Before it was under the PF. It's a top player. They don't get involved in contracts. It's at the management level. Even as mayor, before, when I get complaints from the MPs, what I'm complaining now on delayment of procuring, when you try to find out as mayor, the management tell you, no, you're interfering with the procurement process. This is our area. So they see what they do. So it has nothing to do with the management. Until the mayor and the councillors have powers, at the moment they are ceremonial. The councils countrywide have been hijacked by councilpreneurs, tenderpreneurs, and they are the ones controlling this CDF.
Well, then what do we hear from your colleagues, other members of parliament from the UPND? They say, I've done so much with my CDF, I've done this, I've done that. Why do we get such comments?
You don't expect them to say any different. Wasn't it only the finance minister, Stumbeko, who complained about the CDF had been stolen in his constituencies, so by the council, and he reported them to the police. So if it can happen in the finance minister's constituency, what more the opposition? Well, they'll say it's their view. It's well intended, like I say, but it's very bureaucratic. Just to procure one thing can take. I was just giving. Last 2 weeks we were giving loans for SMEs, for business. Those loans they applied last year. They are only being awarded a year later. I was laughing with them. When they applied, maybe somebody most would like to do chicken. So then there was no power problem. So if we give them money for the chicken now, there's no power. I was telling them, you buy the chicken, they will die because there's no power. So adjust your project. Maybe use free range or try to twist and adjust. Do we expect that they'll pay? Because there's no power. So things have changed. So it's well intended, but practical. It's not it's not efficient process.
Yeah, the president also revealed that there's going to be a special provision, under CDF for the construction of, chiefs' palaces. I'd like to find out if this is something that you support as member of parliament.
Again, that's patronizing the chiefs. I have no problem the chiefs given palaces. It should be automatic. But why should it be CDF? To start with, how about me in Matero? I don't have a chief. So I'll build which chief in Lusaka. And then some other constituencies, some may have 2 chiefs, some may have 8 chiefs. So if they are going to build the palace, they'll finish the whole CDF. No, chiefs should be given, palaces should be built like we did under PF. We built a number of palaces, but it should be the central government to do it by the relevant Ministry of Infrastructure or Ministry of Chiefs. Chiefs fall under the local government. They should handle that at central government level, not at CDF level.
But part of the safety nets that government has put, up amidst the drought and amidst these challenging times we're experiencing as a country is what you're calling now cash for work, where people work and then they're paid for their labor. I'd like to find out, how that is working in Matero and whether you think this is sustainable and impactful.
Andrew, we're going through unprecedented circumstances. A lot of things that's happening is for the first time the Zambezi River is dried. For the first time the Victoria Falls has no water. For the first time we have load shedding entire day, 2 days and sometimes. It comes at 04 to 5, so you have to leave the phone plugged there. Times are hard, cost of living is high. Now the funds for people need relief. Now they're being asked to work and given maize meal, not even mealie meal, maize meal. It's well intended, but again also it's money from the donors. The donors say it's not for work. Somebody can actually, it can bring some legal technicalities. The donors have given us money to help the poor, to give them, but we're telling them first work. And then even in the selection of who is going to work, there's some partisan element in there. So it's well intended, but in the circumstances, it's a drop in the ocean.
Who selects these people?
The DC functionaries. Of course, they write letters to our offices, but it's a game of the DCs, and who appoints the DCs? Yeah. So anything when you put DCs, just know it's a political. It has political connotation. It's get me right. It's well intended, but it's a drop in the ocean. The cost of living has gone high. Mealie meal is above 300 kwacha. Cooking oil, give somebody 500 to go and shop. They'll come with small items, kapamela, everything has gone up, the prices are up. So it's difficult times for all Zambians, and the relief is just a drop in the ocean.
Besides this cash for work, do you think really this administration of the UPND has clearly shown leadership amidst the challenging times that our people are passing through?
They're trying, but their only problem is themselves. When they're in opposition, they promised, they said, we are intelligent. You know, when I see on social media someone say Dao. They like to call everybody else except themselves not Dao. Even their cadres, they like to say, you are very Dao. Because so they are clever, them, yeah? So they said, we are clever. We'll make sure that load shedding is handled. We'll plan. It won't be, even if there's drought, we'll plan. They criticized the PF when there was drought. But we didn't have this kind of load shedding. Maybe because they are too intelligent also. We know they started selling power when they should have not. And we know they used more water out of the Kariba when they should have not. We know there was so much stock of maize in the storage. They decided to start exporting it, only to import it back. And that's the one that had aflatoxin and people got sick. So maybe they are too intelligent for nothing. They are too intelligent for themselves. Because they are too intelligent, they over-intelligent themselves. And in the process, the Zambian people end up with no food, end up with no lights, because they are too intelligent. They think fast. You know, intelligence sometimes, when it's too much, you over-intelligence. It's like you're dribbling in the football at number 9. You just dribbling. Instead of scoring, you start dribbling again and you end up nowhere. Mbappe, when he dribbles one, he hits the ball, shakes the net. So even them, when they dribble once, they should score. Scoring is impressing the Zambian people.
You think they don't know how to score?
They don't know how to impress the Zambian people. They just know how to dribble. They are too intelligent.
The biggest challenge, President
and they dribble themselves.
The biggest challenge, President Sampa, like you mentioned, is unprecedented that now power in some homes go as far as for 4 days. Here at Diamond TV, the last week we had no power for 3 days. And obviously this has been exacerbated by the fact that there's climate change, there's a drought that has befallen us, and all these other things that are, before us. I'd like to find out, from you, with the interventions that government is taking so far, do you think these are enough to resolve the energy crisis?
Again, they said that the climate change hasn't started now. Started last 10 years. When they were in the opposition, they used to talk about it themselves. No, when power will come and plan, will come and do this. Our neighbors in the region, they're experiencing the same climate change. Some even worse, but they plan, and they're not having this kind of load shedding. It's unprecedented. I was raised on Mbaula. Now we are cooking on Mbaula and using candles and koroboy in Matero when I was young. I worked so hard through school and fought my way to live a better life. But this government has taken me back to when I was a poor child living without electricity. And that's what is happening now. The fridge has become just a decoration because the food rots. For 1 hour, what can you do? So it's difficult times. Who's caused it? Who is responsible? It's them. It's not us, the opposition. I like how they say, why are you just criticizing? You should be giving solution. It's not my job to give solution. I'm paid to criticize, to speak on behalf of the people. I hear what people say. From here, I'm going to go to Matero, and I'll hear, they'll tell me, Njala, this and that. Then I'll speak on their behalf. It's them. They are the intelligent one to find the solution. That's what leadership is all about. It's not easy. As they say, mpase mwana bonzo. And then you realize how hard it is. That's what they've had a rude shock. And hence, that's how we are seeing quickly realize, 2026 is here. Let's start working on the constitution so that we have a free pass. Who can we call? They start promising this one, and then you see you see them being paraded, saying this and that and the other.
He says that the president says he's been spending sleepless nights over this energy crisis. We saw him just 2 weeks ago coming from China, cracking some deals in China. He went with Zesco MD and other, the energy minister and other people there. But also he mentioned in his speech that there's a 300 megawatts, thermal plant, in Mamba to add to the additional 300 megawatts that Mamba is already producing, for it to have a total of 600, plus other initiatives that he says is coming up with. But also a number of deals have been signed, and he says in the next few years Zambia is going to be, a powerhouse in terms of energy resource, and will be exporting, this energy. You don't appreciate some of these initiatives that it's taking to address the energy problem?
Well, It's like a child, a little baby. The child is sick or the child is hungry. They want a feeding bottle there and then. Zambians are starving. Zambians have no electricity. Fine, the trip to China, we saw a number of deals signed, but they want to produce results now. That's for the future. He himself says years to come, 27, 28. Short term, Zambians want today. We don't have food today. There's no water. There's no electricity for 2, 3, 4 days in our homes. What's the solution? That's what the president is not saying. If I was asked, if I was the president,
what he's saying is that because currently at the moment at the country we are exporting 500 megawatts. We've already recorded 250 megawatts, of power, but also we are now getting power from Namibia. These are some of the immediate interventions that he speaks about, but also he says that there's going to be an installation of generators, in markets to ensure that small businesses are helped.
That's for you, Andrew. You listen to megawatts. I'm quite educated, and I deliberately speak to on behalf of the people of Chipurukusu, the people of Zingalume, the people of Chibolia. The megawatts language they don't understand. All they know is there's no lights for 3 days. My answer for long term, for energy, Zambia needs to work on nuclear power. The PF government had started, and there are discussions with the Russians, and there was a nuclear power that was set up in Chongwe area. They need to pick up that. That's the long-term solution. Medium term, they need to look at thermal. We have a lot of coal in southern province, in Mamba there, but Mamba is not owned by Zambians, it's owned by the Indians. But there's many other untapped reserves of coal in that area. We need to put up more, invest more money in about 7 coal mines, 7 thermal to supplement. There is money. For instance, the president can sell the Gulf Stream and raise a lot of money, 100 million or so. It can go and put up another thermal plant in the Mamba region area, untapped. That's one thing. Short term now, Lelo, today, what's the solution? I'll tell you what the solution, what the president has not said. If I was the president, the solution would be prayers. We need to pray as a nation. How does rainfall come? Until we have rainfall in the Kafue and the Zambezi, we are not responsible. Who is responsible is God. We need to kneel down and pray, God, give us water, give us rainfall. That's what is not being spearheaded by this government. The National Day of Prayer is coming, but even without that, if I was the president...
Are those realistic targets you're saying, President Mao Sampa, that we need to pray?
Yes. If I was president of Zambia, I would have called a quick national prayer. We kneel down and ask God to give us rainfall.
Is that what you would have done if you were president?
Yes, I would. And it would have worked. Prayer doesn't fail. God has never failed Zambia. We're a Christian nation. If you pray and pray, God listens and has helped Zambia in times of troubles. We had this drought. We knelt down and prayed. Water came. Now we are in October, not even a drop. We are going in October a few days from now. We need to start praying now and asking God to bring us rainfall. That's the only solution. No amount of talking or being clever or calling others down, or no amount of dribbling. Without the rainfall, in the short term, nothing's going to happen. Short term is next few months until the end of the year.
Short term, the UPND are speaking of zero rating the taxes on the importation of solar-related.
Okay, so the guy from Chipurukusu is going to import a solar. Because even the Tumawan they are buying Tumasenban, they're only 2,000. They put it and it can charge the phone and light. And every home now they buy it on Nkongole. There is a company that is selling. They can't afford 2,000, so they're paying 200. Apparently, if you don't pay that monthly subscription, the light stops, the solar stops working. So they can zero it. But Zambians don't have money. I gave a solution last time. I said, if we sold the Gulf Stream, 100 million, we buy power banks and we give people on soft loans, or we buy solar and we give soft loan. There's need to help the poor. And to say, no, use alternative. Of course, I can afford. When you hear me talking about it, I was saying, oh, today there's darkness in my house and we have not eaten. I even tell my wife, me, I'm actually enjoying this because I grew up on this on Mbaula. So I enjoy that life. I've experienced it before, but our colleagues, the young ones, entire nation, have not. They grew up in a better life. Now to tell them, everybody use alternative. That's like telling somebody, you know the story of a king in France. I keep talking about a queen in France. People are protesting, and she comes out looking at the palace, asks the workers, why are they protesting, all these people? They tell her, they don't have bread at home to eat. Bread to the French was like inshima. They don't have bread. Then she goes, if they don't have bread, why can't they eat cake? She was not in touch with the people. How she eats cake every day. So these people are saying, oh, if there's no power, why can't they use alternative solar? Solar is expensive.
The UPN is in touch with the ground?
Why can't they use inverter? An inverter system is 50,000 kwacha. The majority of Zambian cannot afford. No. When they were in opposition, they were in touch with the people. Now they are on the Eiffel Tower. They are not in touch with the people. That's what they say. Use alternative. Even the president, there was an headline where he says, stop crying about load shedding, use alternative sources of power, where they should use charcoal. Charcoal is the one that's causing deforestation. So how should people cook if there is no ZESCO?
You say they're not in touch with the people, but despite the challenges brought by the drought, the president, in his speech also announced that there's going to be recruitment of teachers and recruitment of 4,000, health workers. Should government be commended for this?
Again, it's the same problem. The president and this government thinks that it is their job to create jobs. It's not government's jobs to create jobs. It's the private sector's role. Government's role is to create an enabling environment so that there's a lot of companies and SMEs who will then employ people. But now you have ShopRite closing, so cashiers are losing job because the environment is not good. You have a lot of SMEs, even barber shops, they are closing for one reason or another. Now 4,000, I think there is about 4 million unemployed youths, unemployed, looking for jobs in Zambia. So if you employ 4,000, have you resolved the problem? And even the 4,000, this government, when they announce even for soldiers or police, it's highly political. It's who you know. It's not on merit. If you saw for the youths or those who are trained as teachers who are not related to politicians, they are hardly going to get these roles. So 4,000, yes, we want our children to be educated. We want everybody to be intelligent like them. Since them, they're intelligent. All the Zambians are down. But 4,000 is a drop in the ocean. And secondly, I didn't see in the budget for 2024 where it was said under education, where there was money put aside to employ 4,000 teachers.
These are 4,000 health workers. He didn't mention the number of teachers. He said 4,000 health workers.
The president said health workers. So it's health workers. Yeah. Even under health workers, was it in the budget? I'm yet to counter check. But I doubt it was there. I haven't seen it in a supplementary. But assuming it's there, it's welcome. The health people, Zambia needs health workers, but it shouldn't be the focus. Government should not brag they have employed teachers, they have employed health workers, they have employed soldiers, they have employed policemen. In the previous government, that was given. It was an ongoing process. They expected to do that. They should be talking about creating employment in the private sector. Currently, employment in the private sector is going down, is reducing, and people are losing jobs and companies closing up. That's where they should be talking. In the private sector, we have made so many jobs. Not under government, we've employed so many. Government is broke. It doesn't have money. It's delaying in paying everything that's due. It's delaying anywhere where the government is owing, they will only pay you after a month or two. We are going back to the old days where government became a bad hard payer. So now they are increasing their wage bills, as it were.
Yeah. The president says he's opened up the mining sector. He boasts of the fact that there are major investments that have come on board, including a $600 million in Kitumba mine project in Mumbwa, a $2 billion cobalt metals and the CSMH joint venture in Chilabombwe. But also we did see that the month of July to June to August was very critical for this country. We saw KCM being handed over back to Vedanta, which he had commended early on last year, President Sampa, but also Mopani is now back to life. Shaft 28, dewatering has begun. There's also, FQM is pumping in about $1.25 billion into Kansanshi S3 project and the other nickel mine, in Solwezi. On the mining side of things, should we commend government for all these, investments that are coming from outside and a number of jobs that have been created for our people?
You see, what I was against was just to have dormant at the KCM and elsewhere. They've reignited. So for KCM in particular, I spoke that even if people don't like Vedanta, there was a legal matter, give them than just watching it being caught. Yep. So on that one, I commend them. But as Vedanta brought the money, that's another story. Mopani, they've revamped it, but it's so much in secrecy. Do we know who's bought and how much money they've brought in? We have the right to ask because that's a public entity. Reminds me when I was asking and talking about corruption with building society. I was threatened and given a warning and caution and threatened with being sued. I'm a member of opposition. I'm an MP. My job is Matero, but also my job is to speak on matters of national and public interest, and also to speak on behalf of people of Chipukusu and elsewhere who can speak of Kuku, of Mahopo. But in my checks and balances, if, for instance, a figure is supposed to be 50, me, I said it was 100, that's not an offense. You should just say, no, it's not 50, it's 100. Or, no, it's not true. You also give back counter checks and balances. That's politics. That's why we have the Minister of Information, Cornelius Mwetwa, and the PSAs. Their job is to speak for government, what it's doing. Our job is to question them and to speak on behalf of the people. And when we do that, if they don't like what we say, they should counter speak, and the people will make up their mind. So, on the mines, what matters, Andrew, is we can have all the mines opened. What is in it for Zambians? You only see what's in it for Zambians if there's money that comes in the treasury. At the moment, the mines like FQM, Lumwana, and the others were given tax benefit. So before PF came in, if they were paying this much of tax every year, now they pay less, okay? Their production has increased, they could have paid more tax. But because we gave them concession, they don't pay as much.
So the practice is that's common practice around the globe. When we ask the Minister of Finance that question, he says this is actually standard practice for you to create an enabling environment in the mining sector, but also for you to open up the mining sector for more investors to come through.
That's not true. They are very intelligent. They should know that there are better ways. You cannot just bury your head because elsewhere it's being done to do like that. In Congo, they're actually getting more value of their copper that is dug out by investors. They are retaining a lot more money. These mines, I've said time and again, when they export, even if the production goes up, the copper is sold wherever it's sold in Hong Kong or Dubai, the money stays there, Andrew. They only send a little bit to come and pay wages or to come and pay tax. So even if the money has gone up there, their wage bill has still remained the same. So it's them that are making more profit. Until we capture the money from the copper, when they export it, I had even propagated that under SI 55 when I was Deputy Minister of Finance. I said, the mines that are in Zambia, when you export the copper, we should make it a law. If the copper you have exported is for 50 million, that 50 million should come in the Zambian bank account of that mine. So that we see the money it has come. First, that will also indirectly help the Kwacha appreciate because there's a lot of forex.
And government says that's under consideration and that actually begin to do.
Oh, they're running out of time. They are very intelligent and clever. So they spend time thinking. You know, you look at a exam, Kamats, it's 1 + 1 is equal to 2. You're spending time calculating. You even take out your calculator just to show you're intelligent. No, results is what matters. Now they're running out point of time, 2026 is here. The results are what's needed to show off for their intelligence.
Some of your MPs think that indeed they're actually intelligent. And I'll give an example of your Eastern Province chairperson and Chipangali MP Andrew Lubusha, who said that there's no better leader compared to President Hakainde Hichilema to navigate the country out of the challenges that the country is passing through. And these sentiments were backed by also another MP, Davison, Mungando. What are you saying as Patriotic Front president, to some of your MPs, President Sampa, that seems to be gravitating towards the UPND and championing the leadership of President Hakainde Hichilema?
It's most unfortunate. It's most unfortunate. Of all people, by the way, on a serious note, let me start with a joke. The Chipata MPs are gongers, they are mambuyas. Only them can do such a thing. But on a serious note, it's very sad for Andrew Lubusha, for me. Andrew Lubusha was raised into politics and into business, supported by President Edgar Lungu. He was just a provincial youth, then became chairperson. And if there's any man, I was brought up by Michael Sata. I keep saying that. Without Michael Sata, I would not be where I am politically and otherwise. Andrew Lubusha, without President Edgar Lungu in his life, he wouldn't be where he is. And you know how much the PF went behind, bended backward for him. They had to sacrifice a very senior member of the PF and minister, Honorable Vincent Mwale. Most of us miss Vincent Mwale. He couldn't even kill a fly. Most people can attest to that. But it was heated. Who should go for Chipangali? Is it Vincent Mwale or is it Andrew Lubusha? And most people wanted Vincent Mwale, but because of President Lungu, I must say, not directly, but indirectly, Lubusha was given that seat. And Lubusha had a lot of business under President Lungu, a lot of business with the FRA, a lot of hotels he has built. Lubusha is like a son to President Edgar Lungu. If there's anybody who was last to dump President Edgar Lungu or his cause, it should have been Vincent Mwale. But maybe people have to buy freedom. Who knows? That's why some of us question this fight against corruption. They say it has no eyes, and everybody who steps on the law should be will be cited. The law will visit them. So if this gentleman I'm mentioning is like President Edgar Lungu's son, how come only Dariso, Tasila, Chieso, and others who are President Edgar Lungu's children have been visited and dressed on what assets they own, and those assets confiscated? But some of these who, in the period when President Edgar Lungu was president, they amassed so much wealth. Has anybody taken time to question them?
You think Andrew Lubusha should be investigated by the ACC?
I don't tell the ACC what to say. I just tell. I was giving a reason why.
That's what you're insinuating.
Some of them are going for freedom, and President HH is condoning that. Davison Mungano, I don't know, is a gonger also. These are MPs who will meet in the battlefield. We will not even. I will not waste time even reprimanding them. It's a waste of time. We are in 2025, 2026. We are already in injury time for election in 2026. We will meet in those constituencies. There are a lot of people that want to stand, and if they want to go and stand on UPND, they are welcome to do that. And anybody else will not beg for anybody. There are already candidates working on the ground. And make no mistake, Zambians don't like Mserera Kwakawa. Those who leave the opposition and go to stand on the ruling, they lose. And they lose badly. Where is Siamunene? Where is Honorable Ntundu? Where is Honorable Kaingu? Where is Honorable, who else? Where is Greyford Monde?
As we conclude, Mr. President, Honorable Sampa, a promising alliance in Uka is now crumbling down as other presidential candidates are leaving the alliance. Your faction of your party, is part of this alliance. I'd like to get, your brain on the United Kwacha Alliance and how it's crumbling down.
First of all, I predicted, but it's unfortunate what is happening there. We want a strong opposition. We want the UPND and President HH. They are ruling. but we want to speak on behalf of Zambians, and we want Zambians to make a choice the same way they made in 2021. We want them to have a good choice in 2026 to decide, oh, the UPND and HH, you've worked well, we'll give you another 5 term. Or we are not happy with you, red card, we're giving the opposition. The opposition needs to unite. They need to find ways of reconciling themselves. You know, politics kuipima. You know yourself, your eco measures. Patriotic Front, everybody knows, is a strong party, and we are happy to talk to parties and form a patriotic alliance. But when you have parties of one individual and then they want to call the shots and bully a party like the PF, then there is a big problem. And we've seen this before. President HH and Michael Sata went in an alliance around 2006, but President HH was telling Sata to be his vice president. Sata walked away. There's a picture of Sata working with Guy Scott from that meeting. And both of them lost in 2006 anyway, and 2008 both of them lost. So had they united, they probably had formed government in 2006 or 2008. But it was until 2011 that PF formed. And UPND took them longer also because they were not uniting. But in 2021 they united with this and that party and formed government. So I call upon the opposition, let's all be sober, and whatever we do should be for the good of the people of Zambia. Not me, unless it's me, and myself, nobody else. No, that is being selfish and is not good for the people of Zambia. We need a strong opposition. And the ruling also, they should be strong. Then a football match will be interesting in 2026. And according to the Zambian people, they'll choose who they want. But to deny them that privilege of choosing between a good opposition and the ruling party is being unfair to the Zambian people. That's my message to all UKA or UKA party leaders, to sober up for their own good, unite, and we'll be talking, and so that we have a strong, formidable force, so that we give the UPND a run for their money.
Material lawmaker and PF President, Honorable Sampa, thank you so much for creating time to speak to the Zambians on tonight's edition of Costa.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, dear listeners. Good evening.
Well, that wraps up tonight's edition of Costa. You can catch this episode live on the Costa Monsa Facebook page, as well as the Andrew Monsa fan page. But also later on, this episode is going to be available on our YouTube channel. That's at Diamond TV Zambia. On behalf of the entire production crew, thank you so much for watching. Good night.
Costa was brought to you by FQM Trident Limited, a subsidiary of First Quantum Minerals Limited.